Ricken Financial presents Kickin with the Rickens, redefining retirement. Gerry, Ricken, and Heidi Ricken Provost want to help you reach the retirement you deserve. Let's build a strategy that gives you the confidence while meeting your financial wants and needs. Meet the team at rickenfinancial.com. Now, Kickin with the Rickens.
Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for downloading. Thanks for listening to Kickin with the Rickens podcast. We are here with retirement planner Heidi Ricken Provost and licensed insurance professional Gerry Ricken. My name is Mark Owens. We invite you to get more at rickenfinancial.com. You can get all the information here in the show notes. Thanks again for subscribing. Now, let's get to the show. Heidi, if nothing else, we're going to be honest every week.
Oh, yeah.
And you are,
honesty is the best policy, Mark.
And I love that you subscribe to that theory. And we're going to peel back the curtain a little bit because, Heidi, you're on a bit of a journey. Do you mind detailing what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I am 36 years old, and for 36 years, I have struggled with my health and my weight. You know, we were talking about this earlier. I spent 30 years of my life doing all these DIY plans. First of all, I started Weight Watchers in middle school, and that didn't work out very well. But, you know, when you're with a group of people who are asking how many points of candy you can eat all day long, they don't really give you the foundation of how to fix your food issues.
That's not fair.
I know, right? But I tried everything. And there's a lot of resources available to us nowadays, you know, and I thought I could DIY, find my health in this journey. And I didn't. And I had to rely on the help of some professionals to get to where I am today. So, you know, we were talking about my journey earlier and how I finally feel like I'm in a very strong place right now. And, you know, it started with my mental health. And I had a wonderful therapist who helped me with, you know, some mental health issues and some eating disorder issues. And now I work with an unbelievable trainer who kicks my butt every Monday and Friday morning at 6 a.m. And I was never the human who could do what I'm doing nowadays because I couldn't do it by myself. And I didn't realize I needed the help of a professional to come in and get me to where I am. And, you know, it was making me laugh because Dad and I have been talking at length about this a lot lately, just because I am not a morning person, and it is incredibly abnormal that I've already had an entire day before I show up at the office.
Can I just repeat that? She is not a morning person.
I have never been
She is not a morning person.
No, I'm one of those people, I need like 12 alarms to get out of bed. But, you know, and I liken it a lot to the people that we're meeting with, because so many people we meet with will say, well, I've done it all myself because I have all these resources available. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Surely, with all the resources available nowadays, especially when it comes to your health and well-being, if you're on Pinterest or TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or the internet at all, you're bombarded with stuff. You Google one thing, you say it in front of the phone, you'll never hear the end of it.
Solo stove.
Yeah, exactly. Solo stove, solo stove, solo stove. Everyone's going to get an ad now. You know, but there's so much stuff out there. It really makes you feel like you can take care of it yourself. But sometimes, you know, if it's not your wheelhouse and it's not what you specialize in every single day, there is nothing wrong with asking for a little bit of help.
And that's even if you have a lot of self-discipline.
Oh,
self-disciplined people you don't have all the resources because Heidi, you were very self-disciplined. In high school, you were an incredible athlete, but there was just something else needed.
Yeah, exactly. And come to find out, I did have some underlying health issues that had to actually be treated in order for me to find, you know, health and success that I have nowadays. But I would have never known that had I continued on the path, and I did all the right things, and my body just still wasn't hanging in there with me. And now I'm doing all the right things with the right people, and I'm finding success. And that's what I want for every single person when it comes to your financial future. And that's why I think today we really need to talk about the importance of why you need to be working with a financial planner. And you can't really just DIY it, and you shouldn't just work with someone who only manages money or advises on one or two accounts. You need someone who's looking at everything holistically to help you, because none of us should have to do this alone. And if you're not looking at everything holistically, you're doing yourself a disservice, and you might not be as healthy and wealthy as you could have been had you been working with the right person from the get-go.
And when we talk about holistic planning, we talk about truly looking at everything from what's your purpose going to be in retirement? We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
You know, what's going to feed
We
your
talk about it
soul?
so much, it's the name of our plan, the purpose approach.
The purpose approach. That's exactly right.
We want to make sure everything you're doing purposefully.
Right.
That's right. We want to make sure that, you know, we look at how you're going to have income for the rest of your life, because that's the biggest fear out there. The people are going to run out of income. People think, do I have enough money? Do you have enough income? That's what we need to ask ourselves.
Yeah, we need to ask ourselves quite a bit, but it starts with being transparent enough to ask for some help. And that can be really overwhelming. I remember sitting here even just a couple of years ago, and I was scared out of my mind, the fear of the unknown. I actually kind of got forced into working with the trainer that I have right now. Shout out to Thomas for hooking me up with him and helping me on this health journey. But it wasn't a question. It was you're going to meet with this guy and we'll see if he can help you. And I was scared out of my mind. And he completely transformed and changed my life for the good. And had I let that fear of the unknown paralyzed me, I probably would have never gotten the help that I was worthy of.
Yeah.
And if that sounds like you right now, and you're terrified of peeling back the curtain and having someone look at what your financial health looks like, you're not alone. And we want to make sure that you have a partner in this who is non-judgmental, who can simply help you through each step of the way and just give you a little bit of guidance. We also know we're not one size fits all, so we may or may not be the right fit for you. But if you're afraid of the unknown, all it could hurt reaching out to us would be a little bit of time for you. So give us a buzz at 314-207-6211, and let's have a chat and see if we can peel back that curtain together, look at your financial health, and see if there's anything we might be able to do to help you proactively plan for your future so that, you know, you can be as healthy and wealthy as you deserve to be.
A lot of people worry about, you know, what's next, and a lot of people worry about, am I going to have enough? Not enough people worry about, where am I taking the right approach? Am I taking the right approach from a tax perspective? Mm-hmm. And that's what we look at. We want to make sure it's really, you know, you've heard the old adage, it's not what you earn, it's what you keep. And that is so true. It's what you keep after taxation that's the most important thing. And we just want to make sure that you're reaching out to us and making sure that you understand all the implications of your decision-making process. Because if you don't have that tax background, you may be leaving some money on the table, and the IRS may be very, very happy that you did that, but your beneficiaries may not be.
Yeah, exactly. You know, every person we meet, Beth, let's be real. You have worked way too hard for how much money you've saved to let the IRS be your biggest beneficiary. And unfortunately, sometimes if you don't take the right stream of income, you know, from this account versus that account versus this account, you could be doing everything quote unquote right, but you could be doing it better for, you know, not only yourself, but everyone that you love in this world who would be your beneficiaries in the estate that you're leaving behind, if you simply used a little bit different strategy of which accounts you pull your income from in your retirement. Which ones do you let grow more? You know, when you look at everything, your different accounts should be taking different risks based upon their tax status and your own personal risk tolerance. But if you have to sit here and DIY it, you probably are like, well, okay, which account should do what? And you know what? At the end of the day, it is a lot of work to figure out which account should be doing what. So that's why you should rely on a team like us to help you figure out which one to pull from first, which one to let grow, which one to take the most risk in hopes of getting the most reward, which ones you kind of want to peel back your risk in and make sure you have some preservation in place when it comes to your financial future.
It's all about planning, and successful planning starts with just opening up and understanding what's available and sharing that information that you have and listening. You know, I think I've said this before, but, you know, listening is the most special thing that we have in all of our senses, in my mind, because listening to the responses of questions and then being able to articulate and share our experience, because, you know, a lot of people retire once. We hope that's you. We hope that you are one of those people who retires once and doesn't have to do it again, because doing it again.
If you don't want to.
Yeah, that's right. If you'd like to go back to work, we encourage that, because if that feeds your soul, sure, let's talk about that. But if you have to go back to work because retirement failed the first time, let's make that not occur. It's our goal to make sure that we address what you want to address, and we do it right the first time. Doing the right thing right the first time is what we strive to do in all of our planning. So
and you can rely on some of our expertise because, as Dad said, we hope you. Oh, by the way, for those of you listening, if you didn't know this, Gerry is not just my business partner; he is my favorite dad too. But if you're listening to us, like Dad just said,
that's such a pleasure to know that I'm your favorite.
It'd be bad if she said, Gerry, you're like my top 25 favorite dads.
Right? Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. We hope you only have to do it once, so come rely on some of our expertise because when you're doing a plan yourself, you may not know some of the unknowns that we've experienced, so we can open your eyes to so much more that we can plan for the future to make sure that you do have a plan in place for a lot of the unknowns.
What we do is we just want to make sure that you have an understanding of what's available and because there are a whole lot of things available.
Yeah.
And just to reach out to us, if you reach out to us at 314-207-6211, we'll have that free consultation and we'll be able to share those ideas with you to make sure that you have an understanding of what you can do.
Gerry, you wanted to talk a little bit about some of the risks that you've taken in your life. And we're not talking financially either. What happened to you and what's going on?
Thank God that wasn't a financial risk, by the way.
That'd be a deeper conversation.
I wouldn't be alive.
That's so true. That is so true. Well, when I was in college, Mark, I did some things that were probably a little bit more risky, and I was younger back then.
Yeah, as we all did.
We had a bet one summer and said, okay, let's do something. There were four of us from back in my hometown, and we said, we're either going to jump out of an airplane, parachute out of an airplane, or ride a bull in a rodeo. I was afraid of heights, didn't really trust who was going to pack my parachute, so I chose the bull. Two other gentlemen in my group chose the parachute, and the third one chickened out on all of it, Dean. What I did, though, is I prepared, and thought, okay, I can ride this bull. This is going to be great. And I decided that it would be an opportunity. So because as kids, we rode the steers, we did all that kind of stuff. We just did stupid stuff. But I said, I know I can ride this bull, and I'm going to make my 8 seconds. Well, the bull's name was Aerosol. I was about 3.7 seconds, not on a bull man named Fu Manchu, but on a bull man named Aerosol. And he sprayed me all over the arena. And I was never so happy to see clowns in my entire life as I was that night, because they steered Aerosol away from spraying me even more. So I jumped up and got out of there, but I did it. And I said, that's something that was really stupid, and I should never have done that. But it was a risk it was a calculated risk, because I said, what's the worst thing that can happen? I would not be here today. That'd be the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah.
But I made it, and I made it out. But I said, I'll never do that again.
Well, let me ask.
As I got older.
Okay. You're a couple years older than college now.
Yes.
Is there anything in the world that would make riding a bull worth it again to you?
No. Not a chance.
So you're saying you don't take the same risks today as you did back then?
Regardless of how much money someone put in front of me or whatever carrot they dangled in front of me, I would never put myself on top of that kind of animal again. Never.
Yeah.
Okay, so can I ask you another question?
Yes, ma'am.
When you look at your finances today, do you take the same risks that you did when you were in your 20s?
Absolutely not. And why not? Why not?
Yeah, why is that?
Because time is not on your side when you get older. Mm-hmm. Time is what can recover for any mistake you do financially. If you have enough time, you can typically recover from that mistake.
If you have time and smarts
and information, and planning and doing the right thing right. So, but no, I would never. And what I want to do is just talk a little bit about calculating risk, because when you take calculated risk, and I took a calculated risk when, back then in college on a bull, but I would never take those kind of calculated risks now, because one of the things I want to do, you work really, really hard for your money. You want to make sure that the risk you're taking, the risk you want to take, is the risk you're actually taking. And we find more and more and more that we don't see that in a lot of situations, because, we can lose money. We can lose money in whatever we invest in the stock market.
Okay, so you just mentioned the risk you're taking. Is that the risk you want to take? So let me ask that question of you as our listeners. Do you know what type of risk you're taking right now when it comes to market risk of what you have invested in and outside of the market? And is it matching your risk tolerance? And if you don't know the answer to that, or you think you do, but you're not quite sure, you should give us a call at 314-207-6211. We'd love to do a simple risk analysis for you and peel back the curtain of your portfolio, see what you're invested in, what type of risks it's exposing you to, and make sure that it matches your tolerance. Because if you're not doing that, I don't know, every 6 months or at least once a year, you're probably doing yourself a disservice, and you want to make sure that your risk tolerance and the actual risk you're taking match.
Let's just give a little example. Hypothetically, we met Alan in 2011. Okay. Alan had retired. We got his life story. He said, well, I retired in 2008. And I said, well, what are you doing now? He said, I'm working. And I said, why are you working? But he said, well, because in 2008, I had all of my money in my 401k. I had a small pension. I had Social Security. And my wife had retired before me. And in 2008, I had retired. We were talking.
By the way, he had it all in that target fund. And as you get older, in theory, your target fund should be at quote unquote less risk. So he thought, hey, yeah, in theory, he's like, I'm protected because it's, as I aged up, it went more into the bond market, less into the stock market.
That's right. That's right. So he had that in that target fund. And one morning he said, I was drinking a cup of coffee, reading the paper. That's actually when they delivered papers. I don't know if you younger listeners out there, if you don't know what a newspaper is, ask your parents. But he was reading the newspaper, and all of a sudden she was making breakfast and he heard a thud. She had passed out. She was laying on the floor. She'd had a stroke. And the next several months, the next lots of months, he helped her just nurse her back to health, getting therapy, doing the doctor's appointments, doing all those kinds of things. They were actually talking about wanting to go in the fall. He had retired in the spring. In the fall, they were going to go see the fall colors in the Northeast. They always wanted to do that and take a bus trip up there. Well, it didn't happen because she really didn't fully recover from the stroke. And all of a sudden, he wasn't really paying attention at all to his 401k. Until the next spring, he looked at it and he said, basically, his joke was it was a 201k because it just wasn't, it didn't feel right. He
lost about half.
He lost about half of it. Mm-hmm. And that was in a target fund. And he said, how can I lose money when I had it, a lot of it protected? Well, back then, stocks and bonds both lost money in 2008 in that whole crisis that we had. So he just didn't understand.
If you're invested in anything that's in the actual market, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, exchange traded funds, anything like that, you can't protect that. The market, the market has risks involved. And yes, you can take calculated risks, but bonds can lose money too. They can lose your value too. And the unfortunate reality is he learned that at a point in time where he didn't have time to recover. He didn't have the resources because he spent all of his time trying to literally help his wife stay alive. And, it was just all of these situations at once, he wasn't able to recover.
And what he could have done is he could have relied on someone like Heidi and I and asked what is, let's just analyze our risk tolerance. What else is available that preserves some of my assets so that if something like that occurs, you don't go down with the ship. Yeah. Okay. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, we'd love to have that complimentary consultation with you. And just by calling 314-207-6211, that's 314-207-6211, we'd love to sit down and actually ask you the questions, the risk questions. What do you feel comfortable with? And then match your portfolio up with that.
Yeah, because unfortunately, what Alan didn't know is that he would have had potential to preserve some of his assets if he wouldn't have just left them in his target fund in his 401k. Some people don't know that once you retire or you're over the age of 59 and a half, whatever policy you're in your, in your specific 401k at your business, however that works. But what he didn't know is after he retired, he could move those funds out of his target fund in his 401k. He didn't even know that. If he would have known that he could take advantage of some preservation in the form of an annuity, he may not have been in a position where his 401k turned into a 201k. If he would have known that he could utilize structured notes in his portfolio that have some buffers in there, he may have been in better shape. But, unfortunately, you don't know what you don't know. And if you feel like you might need a second opinion here, or you want to explore all the different opportunities to have some preservation of the wealth that you've worked so hard to accumulate, give us a buzz at 314-207-6211, and let's have a conversation of what you can utilize to put some preservation in place in your portfolio so that it's not all at risk of principal loss.
Because there are other options that will actually earn you reasonable rates of return that are preserving those assets. And people just don't understand what's all available and out there, but we can share that information with you and see if you'd be interested.
Is there a certain age where somebody gives you a call and you say, this is where you need to stop being so risky? You're not 30 anymore. You're not 25 anymore. If somebody's listening this weekend, they feel like they're being too risky in their portfolio. Is there a certain age where you like to dial that down some?
Absolutely. We use the rule of 100. You take 100 less your age, and whatever is left is at most what you should have at risk of principal loss. That's just a guideline. But if you're within 10 years of retirement, honestly, you could be 32 years old if you want to retire in 10 years. You could be 55 years old if you want to retire in 10 years. If you're within 10 years of that goalpost, you need to have some preservation in place, because that's the point in time that everything could go to hell in a handbasket if you don't have something in place to give you some preservation for your future.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Ricken Financial LLC. Ricken Financial LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Ricken Financial LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Ricken Financial LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Ricken Financial LLC.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.
Tax preparation and tax advisory services are offered through Ricken Financial. These services are not offered by IPW and are not subject to investment advisor requirements. These services referenced are an outside business activity not offered through or supervised by IPW.